Welcome to the Discover Health podcast, where we explore the power of gut health, nutrition, and lifestyle to help you feel your best every day. I'm Dr. Josh Sharp, your guide on this journey to better digestion, more energy, and overall well-being. Each week, we'll dive into expert insights, practical tips, and real-life strategies to help you discover health. Ready to start discovering? Let's hit the trail. Welcome back to another episode of Discover Health Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Joshua Sharp, and joining me today is my friend and colleague, Dr. Vaughn Lawrence. Dr. Vaughn, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited.
So Dr. Vaughn is a naturopath, a certified iridologist, and he founded Spirit of Health in Kansas City in 2010. After overcoming his own health crisis in his 20s, Dr. Vaughn dedicated his life to helping others reclaim their health through God's original design and natural healing. Over the past 15 years, he's worked with over 10,000 patients. He's witnessed the reversal of chronic conditions like autism, ADHD, and even autoimmune diseases. He's deeply passionate about restoring hope, faith, and wellness to families through holistic care. So thanks again, Dr. Vaughn, for joining me today.
You bet.
So one question that I love to ask all my guests is, I love to find out the why. How did you get started? What made you get into what you're doing now? What's your superhero backstory?
Well, it's actually a very long story, so I will give you the short version because it could easily be an entire podcast. But here's the short version. I lived a very worldly, I guess you could say carnal life. Grew up in Kansas City, non-Christian home. Moved to Las Vegas at 26 years old and was married at the time. And when I went to Las Vegas, I did everything Las Vegas. And I literally gambled, strip clubs, drank. I actually got into drugs, did cocaine a couple times. I mean, I did all the stuff. And ended up getting divorced just out of my own complete selfishness, no good reason. Went and lived with my tennis partner, who was a younger girl that I was very pretty kind of high-level tennis player. So anyway, from the outside, I owned 2 homes. I had a great job. I had a cute girlfriend, whatever. But like, I was pretty dead and miserable inside, and like I just knew something was very, very, very wrong. So anyway, at 33 years old, I gave my life to the Lord. And that's where everything, when I say radically changed, it radically changed. As in, I could not drink. I couldn't touch alcohol. If I walked into a place where somebody was swearing, it's hard to describe, but it literally felt like knives were stabbing me. It was painful to walk into these places. It was the 2008 housing market crash. So my 2 homes in Vegas were worth basically nothing. So I actually declared bankruptcy. And my girlfriend I was living with very quickly thought I went crazy and wanted nothing to do with hearing about Jesus. So that ended pretty quick. And so I actually took everything and moved back to Kansas City at 33 years old with nothing, because that's where I was from. And during that time, I went to work at a health food store in Las Vegas called Stay Healthy. And I was making $10 an hour and I was happy. I was like, I'm making $10 an hour and I don't even care because this is awesome. And I was learning about herbs and, I was newly saved. So I'm learning about God and all his creation and herbs and how they can heal people. And I'm like, this is so cool. So actually decided to go back to school at that time and get my doctorate in naturopathy. I trained with 3 master herbalists. There's actually a huge natural healing community in Vegas. So I was actually very blessed to be in that area at that time. There were 3 pretty brilliant master herbalists that I trained with for a couple of years in Vegas before I moved back to Kansas City. And then literally Spirit of Health, those words just breathed out of my mouth in the middle of the night. I was woken up and Spirit of Health came out of me. And I didn't know what it meant or what it was, but clearly it was the Lord's calling on my life. And I came back to Kansas City. My dad was retiring from his job of 30 plus years. And I said, hey, Dad, do you want to open a business together? And my dad and I, he helped me start Spirit of Health. And to this day, he's 73 years old. He still works for Spirit of Health. He's a jack of all trades, can do anything, remodel, build a building, fix computers, all of it. So anyway, it's been an amazing journey, a blessing. So let's see, 33 years old, I gave my life to the Lord. I'm 51. So I tell people I'm 18 years old now. So like I'm kind of starting to reach some level of maturity. So, have some grace for me. But it's been quite a ride. It's been pretty awesome.
That I love your story. I maybe I'll ask your wife if that's true that you're reaching some level of maturity.
Yeah, that'd be a good. She'd answer it better than I would.
So on that note, tell us a little bit about your family, what's going on now with you personally.
Yeah, I mean, so the Lord is so redemptive because I actually didn't want to get married again. Maybe I should say I didn't think I deserved to be married again because I
Mm.
chose divorce out of selfishness and just felt like I don't deserve to get married again. And then
Yeah.
Jennifer, who's now my wife, her first husband, she was married at 20, I think she was 27, maybe. She was married for 3 months. Her husband was deployed to Iraq and killed in action.
Oh man.
So she also never thought she would get married again, just committed her life to the Lord and hey, that's it. And actually, when we met, she had been 6 years and never even went on a date with another man since her
Mm.
husband's passing. So anyway, the Lord's amazing and connected us, and it was pretty immediately. We knew we were supposed to be together, and so now I've been married 13 years. We have three children who are now 12, 10, and 8. They're amazing. We homeschool. All three of our children were born at home in our bedroom. Have never had a shot. Have never been to the doctor outside of an emergency. So I'm very thankful for that. We've learned how to treat and take care of our children at home. Actually, did a whole teaching series on how to be your own doctor, like empowering parents to take care of your children at home and not run to the doctor for everything, right? So yeah, I have an amazing family. Again, the Lord's amazing and very redemptive. So I'm very, very blessed.
Amen to that. And I couldn't agree more. The Lord is amazing. He has some amazing ways of making silly and stupid decisions that we make into something beautiful. We just have
Totally.
to have faith and trust him. And so it's
Amen.
amazing to hear your story and just hear God's goodness through your life. It's shared through God's word all the time, but it's also great to hear from other believers and what God's doing in their life too, and just again experience God's goodness and through someone else's experience. So thank you for sharing
Totally.
that.
Absolutely.
So
Love to share the story. Yep.
it's a beautiful thing. So before we get into today's topic, I want to review a few statistics with you. And I love that you shared about your kids and how you work, working with your family at home and being your own doctor type of a thing. But let's go over a few statistics that I looked up. One of those is obesity in children,
Mm.
ages 2 through 19. It's increased from 13.9%, which is too high. That was in 2000. Now it's up to 21.1%. That was in 2023. And that's
Wow.
according to Children's Health Defense. So obesity is on the rise, and you can clearly see it. And then
Mm.
from 2002 to 2015, type 2 diabetes has increased on average about 4.8% per year during those years. So it's rapidly rising, and that's according to Health of the Family. But I want to point out type 2 diabetes, it used to be called adult onset diabetes, and this is
Right.
all in
Right.
children. Autism rates, they've gone from 1 in 44, and that was in 2018. Before that, they were, 1 in 10,000, and then 1 in 1,000, and then they've gone up. And now it's 1 in 31 children in 2020, 2022, according to the CDC. Anxiety disorders now affect 1 in 8 children, according to healthofthe.family.com. And in 2010, about 54% of children had at least one chronic illness diagnosis. That's over half of all children in the United States had a chronic health diagnosis.
Wow.
Okay, I know I just hit you with a ton of stuff there, But what do you believe is driving this explosion in chronic illness among children in the United States?
Man, that is a very, very loaded question. I definitely think it's a combination of things, but I will tell
Yeah.
you what I think the number one problem is. And for some people, it might be a shock. And for some people, they might go, I always felt the same way. So we'll just see how people respond to this. But it is absolutely a problem of lack of activity, lack of movement, living in cities, not living out in the country, in the land, running around. I mean, when I grow up, I, the world has changed, sadly, and it's not a very safe place anymore. So I don't know how you grew up, but when I grew up on my bike all day, playing baseball with my friends, riding down to the creek, stomping up and down the creek. I mean, I was outside all day, every day. And I don't even think I thought about eating. Like I was just out all day, right? And then mom would call home for dinner and I'd run home and eat, whatever. So, and we didn't even eat healthy. Like my parents had no clue, like zero clue about healthy eating. But I was outside all day, every day. And I lived in town, right? So now what are kids doing? At home, they're bored. They're playing video games and they're eating, right? I mean, that's what you do when you're bored, is you play video games and
Yeah.
you eat.
Yeah.
So I'm all for getting kids involved in sports, like whatever it's going to take to get kids outside and active. Of course, you can blame our food supply. There's no doubt whatsoever. The convenience foods, the fast foods, people are too busy. So I don't think I'm saying anything anyone doesn't know. So let me tell you what I think the number one problem is, and the number one contributing factor to children's chronic illness. I'll give you the big overarching thing that I think it is, and then I'll narrow it. Okay.
Okay.
I believe the number one cause of children's chronic illness is the modern medical system.
Now,
I
wait a
believe,
minute. The modern they're there to help. How can that be?
well, just look at the numbers, look at the
Oh yeah.
statistics, look around you. Look at the fact that the United States is 33rd among first world countries in infant mortality. How can we have
Yeah.
the best medical system in the world and be 33rd in infant
Right.
mortality? I mean, something's very, very, very wrong, and people aren't really
Absolutely.
talking about it. So our children, it's way too quick to over medicate our kids, label them ADHD, put them on Ritalin, or our kids are depressed, put them on Prozac, blah, blah, blah. I mean, our kids are so over medicated, it's outrageous.
Absolutely.
Pediatricians, the way they're trained to give drugs is outrageous. I mean, again, what children needs is less screen time, more outdoor time, more sunshine, better quality food. Like
Mhm.
how many pediatricians are talking about that, right? I mean, it sounds like such common sense. We don't even talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really believe the number one contributor to poor health in America is our modern medical system. And when it comes to serious chronic illnesses and autism, I am not shy about it. I think the biggest deception and lie over the last 100 years and what's destroying children are vaccines. And if you look at the ingredients in vaccines, if you look at the heavy metals, the formaldehyde, the polysorbate 80, there's glyphosate now in vaccines, the thimerosal, the monkey brain tissue, chicken embryo tissue, human fetal cell tissue. I mean, my belief is God never, ever, ever desired that this be medicine. This is man-made medicine, not God-given natural immunity. And so I
Yeah.
firmly believe in the name of not getting serious diseases, we have poisoned and destroyed children who are now adults, who are now having children that are immunocompromised, who are growing up. Like we're 3, 4 generations now into vaccines, and the health of America is atrocious. And
Yeah.
children are born weaker and weaker and sicker and sicker. And I actually believe the main contributing factor to that is vaccines. When you start injecting poisons into places in the body that were never designed to, one, receive them in that way, and two, receive the things that are in there that are completely unclean and unnatural
Yeah.
biblically, you're going to cause autoimmune disease. You're going to cause allergies. If people don't know, why are there peanut allergies? And why do we have soy allergies? And why do we have egg allergies? It's because we've been putting them in vaccines for 50 years. You go back 50, 60 years, no human being, no child was allergic to those things. The
Right.
allergies have been created because they're in the vaccine. So again, I'm very bold on this, that I believe the number one cause of the chronic illness we see today is the mass vaccination of children in America.
Yeah. Now, before someone tunes out or think, oh boy, these people, they're just anti fill in the blank, I would encourage you, especially if you're a parent, if you're raising kids, and this is what I always told patients of my own, I'm not going to make a decision for you on whether or not you should, vaccinate your child, but God put you in charge of making that decision on behalf of your child. And
Right.
so allowing somebody, you're placing ridiculous amounts of trust in somebody to inject an unknown substance, probably to them. There's very little chance that they know the ingredients that they're injecting into
Right.
your child.
Or the doctor tells them. Right.
Yeah. And there's also almost zero chance that the doctor tells them the risk, benefits, and alternatives
Mm-hmm.
to doing that. And so as a parent, it's your responsibility to know what's in those, to make that decision and make an informed decision, because the days of just trusting that, oh, we're from the government and we're here to help, that they have your best interest in mind, those
Mm-hmm.
days have been gone for a
They're
long
over.
time.
Yep.
And I wanted to point out also, I don't want to gloss over some of these ingredients, but you mentioned that there is monkey cell tissue. So
Yep.
you're injecting some other organism's DNA into your body. And then the other one that you mentioned, and this one is, I don't think it's well known as it should be, aborted fetal tissue
Right.
is used as host tissue to, supposedly produce the virus. And then the
Right.
goal of these vaccines is to create an acute immune response. And so your body doesn't just ignore all the other ingredients. And so it's no wonder why these allergies happen whenever there's all these other ingredients, including egg, peanut, soy, and so many other factors there, that people are
Totally.
triggering these incredible immune responses, these severe allergies to these ingredients.
Absolutely. And one thing I always challenge, this is just a personal conviction, but I always challenge parents is I just ask them the question. I had a couple in here last week and they had a child and they were split. He wanted no vaccine. She was kind of on the fence thinking maybe they should get some vaccines. And they asked me my honest opinion. So I gave it to him. I'm like, this is not a unbiased opinion. Like, I'm very biased. I'm sorry. But so I just kind of gave him my thoughts. And she was actually very sweet, very appreciative. But what I always challenge parents is what are we scared of? What are we scared
Yeah,
of? Like, I
right.
have 3 children. I want the best for my children. And I'm
Mhm.
very, very, very honest when I say there's never a thought that comes into my brain that says, oh, my child might die of some random childhood disease. Like, it's just not a thought in my brain. I just, my kids are healthy. I take care of them. They eat clean. Like, I'm not like, oh my gosh, they're going to contract some illness and die. And so much of the vaccine industry is fear based. Your child's going
Yeah,
to die of some disease, and that's how they push their product. Like, they're selling fear. They're more than they're selling
right.
a vaccine. They're selling fear. And I don't know if you've ever seen. Have you seen the Brady Bunch episode where they got the measles?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, Bobby got the measles. Oh, he doesn't care. He gets to stay home from school. Ha ha ha. Oh, everybody else got it. They'll be over it in a few days. Like, it was no big deal for
Right.
decades. Now all of a sudden it's like gloom, doom. You're gonna die. Like, why the change in how we view measles if it's not propaganda to sell a product? That's just my opinion. But like, again, ask yourself the question, what are we scared of? And this is what I always say. I'm way, way, way more scared of the ingredients they put in those vaccines than I would ever be of any possible childhood illness my child could get.
Hey, friend, real quick. If you've been enjoying this episode and you're looking for high quality, professional grade supplements that you can trust, I've got something for you. Check out our curated online store at discoverhealth.gethealthy.store. We've handpicked practitioner grade supplements that can be delivered straight to your door. And to say thank you for listening, you can use the code FIRST10 to get 10% off your order. That's discoverhealth.gethealthy.store. Your health simplified. Yeah. I mean, and I think that's the thing is they're selling fear, as you mentioned, and fear is a powerful motivator. It might be the most powerful motivator. Whenever you trigger that fear response, all the blood flow shifts in your brain. And so it shifts away from your prefrontal cortex, and you can't make rational decisions anymore because
Exactly.
that blood flow is
Irrational
shift once
thought.
they activate the fear. But
Yep.
interestingly, it's amazing how they use that fear to motivate when it comes to, oh my goodness, measles, and it could be so bad, and people could die. But yet, and I know that you've pointed this out in the past, well, Vioxx killed well over 100,000 people.
Right.
And is that in the news? Are we still talking about that? Are we still talking about that somebody's product, which by the way, they claimed had zero side effects, and then they
Right.
killed more than 100,000 people with it? Nobody seems to care. Nobody's talking about that. And so you have to then think about, okay, why was that not a big deal? But why is, one person with a, supposed disease, why is that such a big deal?
Well, and here's another statistics. If there's no link between vaccines and childhood chronic illness, one, why do the vaccine manufacturers have immunity from any kind of lawsuits? Why does that now go to the government? And why does the government have a website called VAERS, VAERS, where you can report vaccine injury? And why has the government paid out 3.6 billion, that's with a B, not million, 3.6 billion dollars in vaccine injury related cases? And yet you still want to say, oh, there's no link. I mean, again, it's such a cover up. And so many people are like, we're all waking up to this now. And so many parents, I mean, my heart goes out like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have known earlier. I wish I wouldn't have vaccinated now that I know. But you know what?
Yeah.
No guilt, no condemnation. There's no condemnation in those in Christ Jesus, right? So it's like we just like learn, get educated, make the right decisions, move forward, and let's start restoring health. Let's start restoring future generations. Like that was my heart with my kids. They're gonna be born at home. We're not gonna inject anything into them. They're gonna be healthier so that they can birth more healthy children. And like we could reverse this in a couple of generations with the help of God, because our bodies are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Amen. Yeah. Amen. Well said. And I love that you pointed out, like, okay, this has happened. It's already been happening. How do we move forward from it? Because,
Right.
you can't go back in time and undo some of the decisions that have been made, but we can move forward. And a couple more statistics I want to point out about moving forward. So if the US is supposedly so great with healthcare and we've got the best healthcare in the world, which is a myth, by the way, it's actually one of the worst of any country that has,
Actually,
is
if
developed. It's one of the worst.
if I could clarify, this is what I've always said. I believe our emergency healthcare system is the best in the world. I really do.
Absolutely.
If I was to get a gunshot wound or get in a car wreck or cut my finger off with a chainsaw, like I'm glad I'm in America. I really am.
Absolutely.
It's the
Absolutely.
rest, the other 90%, like don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. 10% of it's awesome, and
Yeah.
90% of it, honestly, is kind of a train wreck, and that's what we need to fix.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Our first responders, the emergency room workers that are,
Heart
fantastic
attack,
people.
bringing people back to life, like we can do things. It's awesome.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. But in terms of, taking care of general ailments or chronic health conditions, yeah,
Totally.
that's where it really falls short.
Yeah.
And, cost of care is way higher. Number of medications that we take as a country, I think it's like more than number two and three. If you add number two and three together, we're still taking more medications per person in this country.
I just looked this up.
Okay.
In America, in 1 year, this statistic is absolutely shocking. There's over 6 billion prescriptions every year. 6 billion
Whoa.
prescriptions. Now, how many people are in America? approximately
300,
333 million. So
333
there's
million.
one prescription written. Sorry, there's 18 prescriptions for every man, woman, and child in America. How is that even possible?
Yeah, and I'm taking 0 and you're
And I'm
taking
taking
0.
0, right? And
So
my
that means
kids are
somebody
taking
else is
0.
taking 36.
Yeah, it's got to change. Clearly,
Yeah.
pharmaceutical drugs are not bringing health. Look at the
Yeah,
statistics.
absolutely. So 22 to 27% of US children are on at least one prescription medication. 8% of the children in this country are on stimulant medications. Now,
Mm,
in the Netherlands, 1.2% of the population, and in Germany, 0.7%. So
yeah,
why do we supposedly require so much more? Our,
right.
if kids are taking all these meds, shouldn't our health be that much better than, these other countries that aren't taking as much meds? And
Yeah.
obviously the answer to that is no, not even close. It's the exact opposite. The more meds, the much, much, much worse your statistics are. So
Well,
if
let's state, can
medications
I
aren't,
state,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
sorry, can I just state the obvious? Okay, if you're looking at, whoever's listening, logical common sense right here. If there's a health issue in your child, the question
Hmm.
is what are they deficient in? Are they deficient in sunshine? Are they deficient in a healthy diet? Are they deficient in healthy movement and exercise? Because I guarantee you there's not a child in America who's deficient in man-made petrochemical pharmaceutical drugs.
Yeah,
Nobody's pharmaceutical drug deficient. So it will never, ever, ever be the fix, right?
absolutely. And I think in most cases, they weren't intended to be a fix. They were intended to be, like, oh, let's regulate this until you can get something fixed
Right.
originally. But
But
obviously,
they
that's
don't
been
teach anybody that. Right.
no, that's not taught anymore. Yeah.
I
So
mean, if you have to get,
medications,
if a child, I've worked with a lot of kids with seizures. If you're on a seizure med, you got to be on a seizure med. But how do you help that child get well and get
hmm
off that seizure med? Like, who wants their 3-year-old child to be thinking that they're going to be on a seizure med their entire life into their adulthood? I mean, we
yeah.
got to help people get off of these things. There's a reason, there's a root cause, right?
There's a root cause. So if medications aren't the answer, then what do you think are the missing factors that parents should be focusing on to protect their kids?
Yeah, so maybe I can just mention a little bit what I do because I feel like it plays into this. So I see people with chronic illness, like you mentioned. I've seen
Hmm.
over 10,000 patients. I've seen autism. I've seen pans and pandas. I've seen tons of skin conditions, lots of eczema, psoriasis. So I see a lot of kids. It's not necessarily my specialty, but my specialty is chronic illness. And this is what I explain to parents. There's always two problems. One is, what are your deficiencies? I kind of mentioned it. We're definitely deficient in sunshine, clean water, healthy organic fruits and vegetables. Minerals is a big deficiency. Everybody has
Hmm.
mineral deficiencies, including our children. I've seen that be game changing. So we have to exercise. Whatever, that could be another one. Right? That could be a deficiency. So we have chronic deficiencies, one, and number two, toxicity. And so this is where the medical system, well, actually, they don't address either one. They don't address deficiencies or toxicities. But why your children are sick and have chronic illness is because your children
Hmm.
have mold, they have Lyme disease, they have virus issues, they have heavy metals, they have glyphosate poisoning, which is Roundup. They have a toxic load, either
Yeah.
from birth from their mom, or from their environment, or from drinking tap water, or what they were exposed to where they live. So those are always the issues: is the deficiency issues, and it's usually the toxicity issues that have to be addressed. So whatever the diagnosis, whatever the symptoms, it's not about how do we treat the symptoms. It's about how do we address the deficiency or remove the toxins, because that's what restores normal function. Because what I always say is God's a good designer. The architecture, the blueprint, there's nothing wrong with the blueprint. The problem is there's too many toxins or poison interfering with how that blueprint design was supposed to work. So you remove those interferences, you put the nutrients back in, and all of a sudden, everything starts working right again. And I've been blessed to be able to see that thousands and thousands of times, which I love.
Yeah. And it's such an amazing thing to see and to witness, especially kids. Adults are great, they're fine and everything, but when a kid doesn't feel well, and you can tell, and it just seems like they're lifeless, they're just lethargic, their eyes are, glazed over and glossy. And to see that come back and that spark come back and the activity level come back and their energy improve, it's an amazing thing to watch. And so it's so much fun, and it's so rewarding working with kids.
Amen.
And one reason why I love it is because typically they can get better faster than an adult, because they don't have years and years and years worth of damage like an adult does. Right. So it can be so rewarding. So
Amen.
You're touching on some of these big factors, and one factor you talked about was the environmental toxicity. Some of those things could be stuff in the environment, everything from chemicals that you might be exposed to, cleaners you might be exposed to, stuff that could be in your food. But also there's another factor, which we haven't touched on very much, but a little bit, and that is stress. So what role do you think stress plays in chronic childhood illness, or a lot of things we're calling quote unquote normal now, these anxiety disorders? What role do you think stress has to play in this?
I definitely think it plays a role. I mean, I would say with chronic illness, it's more of a toxicity issue. And I feel like stress can be a trigger, right? Like stress can put you over the top or over the edge. I don't necessarily believe stress is always like the root cause of some major chronic illness. However, what I would mention is, I don't know, this book just popped into my head, so I'll mention it. I don't know if you've heard of it, but there was a book written a long time ago called Nature Deficit Disorder.
Okay.
So you think ADD, attention deficit disorder, it was called Nature Deficit Disorder. And it just was basically like, no, that these children were designed by God to be outside, running, playing, exploring, free, boys and girls, but especially boys. Putting a boy in a classroom, having to sit in a desk still for 5, 6, 7 hours and do math problems or whatever is like the most ridiculous form of education that could have ever been created, right? And it's like, these boys should be out shooting, exploring, hunting, catching frogs. Like if you watch like Little House on the Prairie or some of these shows back in the past, I mean, the kids were kind of sitting in a classroom, but they were up outside running around. They were exploring. And it's like, man, so I feel like, going back to your question, I feel like the anxiety that's coming out is they don't have an outlet. They don't have a release. So you know what becomes the outlet? What becomes the release? Right? That becomes their outlet, because they're stressed, they're anxious. And so getting on a phone or playing video games actually gives them that release, when the release should be kicking a ball or punching something or swimming or running or something. You know what I mean? Like, so, we live in town, but we're pretty intentional about getting our kids, outside playing, hiking, biking. They're involved in sports. They do tennis. My son does flag football and soccer. I know that the sports thing can get a little all consuming and a little crazy, but I'm like, they need an outlet, especially my son. My son, if he stays at home, he's like he doesn't know what to do with himself, right? So these kids need an outlet. So I feel like a lot of the anxiety comes from that, but also having seen a lot of kids with ADD, ADHD, whatever they're calling it now. I know they keep changing it. Autism, is there's a lot of bent up anxiety in their bodies because of their chronic health issues.
Yeah.
Like that stress, that anxiety is trapped in their systems. So we don't only do like herbal therapies and stuff like that. I actually do neurofeedback. I do something called TKM, which is the King method. I do magnet therapy. I actually do different therapies that can release basically like stuck trauma in the body
Hmm.
because these kids are so toxic, which means their nervous system is so damaged
Yeah.
that any abnormal stressor, anything can like freak these kids out, or they just scared, or they go run and hide in a corner, or they need mommy or daddy. And it's because their nervous systems are so damaged. So part of this too is they need a way to release this stress, this trauma in their nervous system. And there's different therapies and techniques out there to do that. Sorry,
Yeah.
I know that was a
And
long answer.
that's great. I mean, that's why I have you here, is for your long answers. I think they're amazing. So, uh, I really love that you incorporate those other therapies into working with kids, because it's not always, I mean, I would say, quote unquote, chemistry is definitely a factor almost always, especially nowadays, like we talked about with the toxins and, stuff that's going into our body. But then so often there's emotional and there's physical deficits or deficiencies or challenges there as well that need to be addressed. And so incorporating that into care, I think, is such a valuable thing. And getting
Absolutely.
the kids outside, I mean, there's so many benefits, like you talked about sunlight, and then touching a tree, touching the ground. I mean, we're connecting
Totally.
with earth and we receive electrons, and so it's very calming and soothing to our nervous system.
Yes.
We can
Good
displace
point.
some of those um, electrical energies, those that we get, electromagnetic frequencies that we get from sitting underneath fluorescent lights, beating down, or LED lights beating down on us all day, which,
Yeah.
by the way, alter your brain chemistry. So,
Yeah, if I could just, I'm going to basically say the same thing you just said in a different way, but we are electrical beings,
mhm.
right? We are electromagnetic frequencies. If anybody thinks that's weird, I tell them two things. One, God spoke and everything came into existence,
Yes.
which means everything was a frequency because it was literally the voice of God that created all things, right?
Yeah.
So everything has a frequency that has the voice of God in it. And then also, First John tells us God is light, which means if
Ab-
we're made in the image
yes.
of God, we're also light. We're light beings, which means we're designed to absorb sunshine. We're designed to absorb frequencies, but the right ones, right?
Absolutely.
So if we're listening to the right music, if we're hearing the crickets chirping, like why do we have to put sound machines on at night that's a babbling brook or crickets chirping? Because those are the frequencies we're designed to hear, right? So the more
Mhm.
kids get outside, to your point, the more kids get outside, the more they're getting the right frequencies that ground them, that balance them, that are going to help them sleep at night. The more they're inside getting blue light and 5G that kills bees, right? So obviously something's wrong with that. So there's clearly man-made frequencies that
Mhm.
are going to do the opposite. It's going to keep you ramped up, anxious, you can't sleep, right? So just another argument to why like your kids absolutely have to be spending time in nature, ideally barefoot. Like I got a daughter, I cannot keep shoes on the girl. Like in the wintertime, literally she walks outside barefoot in the wintertime. Everywhere we go, she forgets her shoes because she immediately takes her shoes off. And I'm like, that's my girl because I don't like wearing shoes either. I feel like we're supposed to be outside connected to the earth. And again, that's a big part of what's missing in our world today.
Absolutely. So there's, a lot of talk nowadays about, oh, the food and what's in the food, and food dyes have become such a, common topic. It's in the news all the
Right.
time. And it seems like the food dyes are becoming the scapegoat um, regarding health issues in children. So food dyes, obviously, we know there's issues with where they come from and what they do to the body, and what they're doing to our kids' brains and everything. But what are some other maybe lesser known ingredients or things that go under the radar that are not being talked about that can be problematic for kids in terms of what's in our food?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's really, really, really hard, honestly, to get clean food these days. Like, let's just be
Yeah.
real. And and a lot of people can't afford it. Like it's really, really expensive. So that's
Hmm.
what's sad about our world. It's so upside down that if you want to eat like grass-fed beef, you have to pay twice as much for it, which is sad, right? So I would say if I like, I'm going to just use our family as an example. Okay. What battles do we pick? Right? Because you can't, there's no perfect way to do everything.
Right.
So meat is a big one for us. No hormones, no antibiotic. That's a biggie, 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 biggie. I feel like girls are going through puberty way earlier than they should.
Yeah.
Sometimes 8, 9 years old. It should be like 13, 14. So, my daughter's 12 now. She's starting to get some signs of her getting her hormones and stuff, but I did everything I could to keep that from happening way earlier than it should.
Oh
Because
yeah.
statistically, the later you get it, the healthier and the less chance of chronic illnesses women get as they get older. So,
Right.
hormones and antibiotics in meat's a big one. We try to get grass fed, beef. Um, people talk about reading food labels, and honestly, like, not saying we don't some, but we very, 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 very rarely read food labels because if everything you buy is fruits and vegetables and quality meat, I don't have to read the ingredient label. Like the
Right.
ingredients of grapes is grapes, right? The ingredients in the potato is potato. So if we're having to read food labels, that means we're buying packaged foods,
Processed
right?
foods.
So
Yeah.
we have very, very little packaged anything that we buy. If you open our fridge, it's like overflowing with fruits and vegetables. And then I think quality proteins are important. And then the carbs we eat would be like oatmeal. Again, what's the ingredients? Oats, right? So that's just my opinion that maybe to your point is like there's a lot of things in our foods that we shouldn't be eating. So I'll give you one more. If we are reading a food label, we absolutely avoid seed oils, right?
Yeah.
Canola oil, corn oil, soy oil, PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids. We know that they're an atrocity. They're horrible. They're so bad that even fast food chains are actually switching out their vegetable oils and starting to use tallow and like real things now, which is awesome. So,
Hmm.
there is definitely a shift and a revolution happening, but that would be my opinion is get good quality meat with no antibiotics, no hormones. Don't buy packaged food, then you don't even have to read food labels, right? Just get tons of fruits and vegetables. We make smoothies, we do salads, we do roasted vegetables in the oven. Like, yeah, I mean, the vast majority of our diet is fruits, vegetables, and quality proteins.
It doesn't sound that difficult when you explain it like that.
It's not. It's just so
Yeah.
different because we're so
It's
used to
different.
we're so used to the packaged foods and reading the labels, and that's okay, but like, you know, it takes more work, let's just say that, to eat fresh foods all the time. And we live in a busy culture. So we're busy too. So we do lots of smoothies
Hmm.
because it's quick. Or salads, you can make a salad really quick. So you just have to be creative.
Yeah, I think that's great. And, what I always tell people is planning, planning ahead. Don't
Right?
wait until you're hungry and it's 6:30 at night and, everybody's looking at you. What are we going to do for dinner? Plan that
Totally.
out in advance. And the better you plan, the more likely you are to make a good decision when it's not spur of the moment than um, waiting until the last possible second.
One of
So,
the favorite things we make that our kids, everybody loves is quinoa bowls. So
okay.
we
Oh,
have an
that sounds
instant
good.
pot. Yep, we have an instant pot. My wife makes a giant thing of quinoa. And so the quinoa is the base. And then you just lay out all the toppings. You got sauerkraut, beets, avocados, sprouts, like sunflower sprouts or, broccoli sprouts, some feta cheese. And, we just got this whole, and man, it is delicious. It's so good to like make these bowls. So again, just one idea of just a way you can do that.
Yeah, it can't get any more simple than that. And I agree. It's so good and everybody loves that. And it's easy for the parent. It's quick. So it's great.
Totally. Totally.
So we've talked about, making decisions as a parent regarding food, making decisions regarding medications and things like that. And I really admire the way that you celebrate those mama bears who are out challenging the medical narrative. What's your message to parents that fear that maybe fear having those conversations with their medical provider, or maybe they feel overwhelmed when they're making decisions that don't necessarily go along with what their pediatrician or their medical provider has told them? What advice would you give them when they're making those decisions?
Yeah. Um, the first thing that comes to my mind is I would say education is huge. So the more you get educated and the more you learn about these things, with that education comes confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have confidence and you have education, then you're not easily manipulated by the narratives out there, by the
Yeah.
propaganda out there. If you educate yourself on vaccines, you're not on the fence about it. You're like, no, I've read about it. I've heard too many stories. I know other parents, and this is the decision we're making.
Mm-hmm.
And we just ask that you'd respect that. And if they don't respect that, that shouldn't be your doctor anyway. So I think if you're educated and you have confidence, because I think the challenge is there's been so many lies and deceptions and should I not? Should I just do a delayed schedule? I'm just talking about vaccines. Obviously, there's other topics, but it's like kind of like you said before, gone are the days where we just blindly trust what the doctor says. We very much know now that doctors are very, very, very smart. So there's no issues with the intelligence of a doctor. The problem is what education do they receive?
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't receive the proper education to properly help somebody, they're not giving good information. And so
Yeah.
now parents have to become their own doctors. Parents have to become their own advocates. Parents now are responsible. They've always been, but even more than ever, we have to be responsible for caring for our own children because God gave them to us to
Yeah.
care for and to nurture. And we realized, like you said, oh my gosh, like there's this whole system out there that I thought was looking out for us, but actually they were only looking after their own profits and their own, dollar signs. And so we have to shift how we think. So yeah, that was my initial thought is I just really feel like you got to be educated and you got to have confidence. And if you do that and you can be nice, you can be kind, you can be respectful, you can be loving, but you can also be very confident in what you say.
I think that's great advice. The more you understand, the processes and what's behind all the options, the more the right choice becomes so obvious. It just makes sense, right? And um, we're not using smoke and mirrors. We're not manipulating statistics. We're not avoiding asking inconvenient questions because we don't want to
Right.
know the answer, which, by the way, has been done for generations. Why is there no research that compares unvaccinated populations to vaccinated populations? Because
Totally.
they don't want to know the answer. They don't want you to know the
Exactly.
answer of that.
Exactly.
Um, there has been some research done in that area, but it's not done in the United States, and it's not out there where you can find it very easily.
Yeah.
Um,
Because if they did one study with 1,000 vaccinated kids and 1,000 unvaccinated kids
mhm.
and looked at their health and chronic illnesses and motor skill development and intelligence, it would be
Yeah,
so mind boggling that it would literally be the end of the vaccine industry.
yeah,
Literally.
absolutely. And so,
Because I've seen it. I've seen the parents who vaccinated
mhm,
one or two kids, learned the truth, stopped vaccinating, had more kids, and they will tell you the difference in those children in their intelligence, motor skill development, social
yeah,
skills is literally night and day. And it's tragic. I mean, but thank God, parents learn those things and they shift because we want what's best for our kids.
absolutely. And I think that you pointed out the doctors themselves, they're very smart, and I don't really think they're out to get you or out to, um, but they're doing what they've been taught to do. They're following
Right.
what they've been educated to do. and who's in control of that educational system now. And those are things that you need to be thinking about and considering. Where's this coming from, and asking, okay, why, and why would you do that, and why, that, and eventually they'll get to a point where it doesn't actually make sense, to continue to go down that direction when you ask, well, why would you do that? Why would you do that? And
Right.
so I really like the idea of educating yourself, gaining confidence, and then, trying things out, I think, is a great way also.
Hmm.
Try changing the diet, try getting the kid outside, and
Yeah.
compare, make a journal of what were they like, on week 1 before, and then, put together a little plan of, okay, we're going to enjoy 30 minutes of sunlight every day for, a week, and see if there's a difference. And when,
1 week of no TV or video games.
yeah, what could that do,
They've done those
and
studies. Have you seen those studies they've done in England? And they took some like private schools in England, and they did
yeah,
like 2 weeks where they had no phone, no screens. And the interaction of the kids like getting together and talking to each other and laughing and being together was like dramatic.
no, I haven't
Because
seen the study. I'll have to look that
oh
up.
yeah, it's unbelievable how these devices completely basically what they do is they completely alienate and they just separate kids because they don't learn how to interact with each other or talk face to face.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool. I read a whole they actually had a whole video on it and everything about how the kids were interacting. It was like night and day.
And I think that you just brought up a really good point, is one factor that we've not really talked about in regards to healing from chronic illness is community is so important.
Totally.
And if you're a mother that's out there that's, maybe struggling with, okay, what decisions should I make? Or I know I want to make these decisions, but I'm scared of what somebody will say, or I'm scared of, the pushback I'm going to get or the consequences. Seek out community, people, like-minded
Totally.
people, people that have been there, people that have tried that, people that have experience going through that. Seek out that community for encouragement. I think God knew what he was doing when he commanded, Christians to gather together, to
Yeah.
worship.
Amen.
There's a powerful thing with community.
Strength in
So
numbers for sure.
I'm sorry.
Strength in numbers for sure.
Absolutely, strength in numbers. So I know that you actually have some things in the works regarding chronic illness in children. Can you share a little bit more about that and what you're doing there?
Are you referring to like the master class I just did or
Yeah,
some other treatment? Okay, so yeah, I
masterclass.
mean that did just finish last Wednesday, but we did a 3 week master class on reversing chronic illness in children. So we just talked about like what's the problem, what's the root cause, what are the solutions, and we did a whole free master class on that. And we're having a new website come out, so that's all going to be released as part of our new website coming out pretty soon, where we're going to have all our master classes and all those things available. Right now, even if you go to YouTube, I have over 800 videos on YouTube on a lot of these things. I've done whole classes on ADD, ADHD, autism. Some have been taken down, so I'm not even sure. I feel like YouTube takes down about one video a month. Like I think all my cancer videos have been taken down, but oh well. So yeah, so much for free speech in America, right?
Right, right.
But yeah, so yeah, I really am passionate about children. I mean, I have 3 children of my own. So I want to give information to parents to help them make wise decisions. I have lots of articles on my website, like blogs on vaccines. We have a whole pregnancy section on our website. I actually talk about the Hep B vaccine and vitamin K shot, and I have blogs on like all that stuff. So we have lots of resources on our website for that.
That's great. So if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, or if somebody wanted to access some of that content that you're talking about, could you share your website or maybe some contact information where somebody could maybe get some more of that information?
Yeah, absolutely. So Spirit of Health is the name of our business. So the website is just Spirit of Health KC, as in Kansas City. So spiritofhealthkc.com. We have an email. You can email the store at spiritofhealthkc.com. just for like general questions. Our phone is 816-492-5648. And you can go through the prompts depending on what you're looking for, because we have the retail store, we do the consultations and lab testing, we have a whole therapies department, and we have Eden Studio, which is a Pilates and dance studio. We have a whole engaged kids program for kids dance classes and tumbling classes. So we have a lot of fun stuff going on. And a lot of people love our store too, because everything's been vetted by me for over 15 years. So you don't have to sift through all what's good and what's bad when it comes to like vitamin C or whatever. We don't have 27 different ones. We have 2. So we try to make it really easy to make sure you're getting the best stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know that it's been enlightening for me, and so I hope it's been enlightening for our listeners as well. And I'll put that contact information for Dr. Vaughn and what he has going on down below this video in the description, and I'll also put it in the description on the audio podcast as well. So thanks again, Dr. Vaughn, for joining me today.
Amen. Thanks for having me. It was an honor.
Thanks for tuning in to the Discover Health podcast. Remember, your health is a journey, not a destination. Keep exploring, and we'll see you next week.